Alright YouTube, so I took this power drill auger, I think it's an Earthquake auger in on trade for that echo trimmer I had. I was looking to flip it. Didn't think I was going to get much out of the echo, so I got this earth auger. And you know, I bought it, or I traded for it not running. I don't have any issues with that. The thing looks brand new. I know all you guys can see is this right now, but like the auger still has all its paint on it, and the unit itself is really clean. It's got a Tecumseh TC2 on it, which is I think 50 cc. It's a power drill 206004, and the carb, I haven't actually tried to run it yet. Because there's a little fuel nozzle or hookup back here that's cracked off. Pretty common on these Tecumsehs. And I got a carb rebuild kit just, you know, to do it since I'm going to be in there anyway. So yeah, we're going to get started here. I believe all you're going to need is a flat screwdriver and a 1/4-inch socket. That's all you should need, I believe. Actually, you might need something smaller. I'll have to check when we get into here. We got 2 filter screws. You will be taking the gas tank off on this, so if you haven't already, drain your fuel. Off comes the air filter cover and some kind of pre-filter. Another foam filter, and the pre-filter just fell for that. Alright, next we have these two, which aren't 1/4-inch, so I got a maybe 5/16 maybe. Nope, 11/32. There we go. That's kind of an odd size, but there's 2 nuts in here you got to take off. Now a lot of times, since these are studs, the whole stud will unscrew from the engine. That's not a big deal. Just let it come out and you'll rescrew it when you do that. So you got 2 nuts that come off there. That releases the fuel tank, and attached to the fuel tank will be this fuel line. It's going to be easier to pull it off here, like that. As you can see, there's a little crack in that. That's one of my issues I gotta fix, or I have rather. You can see there's the fuel tank, and normally you'd have this bolt up here that's bolted into the engine housing as well, but make sure you take that off before you think it's going to come off, because mine was not in there. Mine wasn't in there from the prior time I took it off, but this bolt will be on the top right side of the gas container, so you have to take that off as well. Alright, back to these little screws. I'm guessing that's a different size as well. Let me see. Yep. Maybe 7/32. That's kind of odd. Maybe it's metric. Let's see. Those are really, really tiny. I guess it is a 1/4. You gotta have the 6-point 1/4 to take it off. There it is. You gotta take these 2 studs off. Just one stud. And the second stud. Now you will have a connection up here on the top of this. Maybe bring you guys up to see this. You have a connection up here, so you guys can see, for a spring, and then this is like a little fan blade that goes up into the engine. Once you take that spring off, you'll be able to lower this right down and keep that part connected. You'll see here in a second. So you gotta take this, I guess you can take that spacer out, and take this little spring. It does have a bend in it, so it can be a little difficult. And this one's already been bent by the previous owner. There you go, there's that spring. Alright, now you got the carb off. So it says it's a Tecumseh carb, but this is a Tillotson carb. Tecumseh. No primer bulb. This is called an air vane. I'll show you guys inside this engine here so you guys can see how clean this thing actually is. Hopefully you guys can actually see into that. It is a double ring piston. I was kind of surprised. You see your double rings right there. No scoring at all. Surprising for a earth auger. You guys can see, get a better view of it. Pretty big earth auger. I mean, it looks, besides the handles which some kind of small animal has chewed on, the thing looks brand new. Still looks really good. It's a 2003 model, so you can see, like, even on the chip blade, it's maybe been used once or twice. Barely any usage. It's got the spring-loaded shock, and it's got the extension. Alright, so let me get this carb ready for cleaning and rebuild, and I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, I have you above the carb here. I'll show you guys again. This is the Tecumseh 5170 C3F. I'll show you what carb kit I have for it here. Hopefully this is the right one. This is a Tillotson RK18HU repair kit. That wasn't good. Tillotson is an Irish company. These are kind of actually hard to find at a decent price, and I'm hoping this is the right ones because I sort of went on a limb and imagined it was a Tillotson. But finding like a Tecumseh style carb kit is kind of difficult. But as you can see, how this carburetor works is like the throttle is spring loaded, and so the throttle will pull it up, but there's nothing that pulls it back, and this air vane catches air off the engine and slows it back down. That's how it throttles down, and the throttles up is done by the throttle, but nothing else is spring loaded, so when how it throttles down is using the wind from the flywheel. Alright, I'll get this open here. This takes 4 T10s on the bottom, TX10. That's a Torx bit. Very rarely do I have to use this. Not Torx, but the TX10 torque. It's not a size that you commonly find. Normally I wouldn't wear gloves, but for aesthetics purposes and you know, the YouTube community, I will wear gloves for this. I'm hoping you guys can see it. I know it's a little dim. You got 4 of these, and on the bottom it says it's made in Czech Republic, so that's kind of interesting. Alright, and off comes the carb. Now that is an interesting carb design there. Pull that puppy off. Hopefully I got one that matches that. What on earth? That's kind of a weird piece. Let's see what our options are here. Yeah, those two aren't the pieces. Set those off to the side. So the other ones I got here. Aha, there it is. There's the little valve controller thing that controls the actual carb, or the gas flow, shall I say. Line it up like that. And these are really simple to put back together. And then you got this piece here that sort of overlaps what you just did. Go like that, maybe? Yeah, there it is. And that goes like that. So next, actually I'm gonna shoot this with a little bit of carb spray off camera. I'll be right back. Alright, so I cleaned out this with some carb cleaner. This carb honestly didn't need it, and I honestly think it would run the way it was, but I did that just to ensure that it runs, cover myself, you know. So we're going to plop this back on here. Right there, just line it right back up where the other one is. Now the felt gasket here goes like that. Whoa. This is why I don't like wearing gloves. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Alright, you can spray out this little plastic piece with carb cleaner if you want. It's resistant to that kind of stuff. Okay, so this needs to go like this. There it clicks in, maybe. Yep. Come on. There it goes. Tighten that down a little bit. I sort of like to tighten them all down at the end. Sort of get them loosely screwed in and then sort of start it like you would a car tire. So I'm going to sort of star pattern it here, make sure it's nice and tight. I don't think we'll have any issues with this carb, to be honest. Alright, now you flip it over to the other side, that side's done. Now there's a Welsh plug in there I did not replace. Those almost never go bad, and it's not worth me trying to clean it. A lot of times that acts as like a fuel filter in your carburetor if anything gets past the other fuel filter. And sometimes that will be clogged up with, I've seen felt in the not the Welsh plug, the little mesh plug, not 100% sure what they call that, but I've seen multiple times where that little plug gets clogged up. But that one was fine, I'm not going to replace it. 9 times out of 10 it's these gaskets. Take this piece off here, preferably. Okay, yeah, so there you see the little gasket insert here, the little fuel valve controller thing, and these probably should be black, but they're not. These are 2 separate pieces. They're just sat together so long and combined into one. I'll show you the piece that's this piece and this piece together. Alright, next thing you can do is take out this plug right here. Ooh, that is not liking my screwdriver. Hang on. Try to TX15 maybe? No. That puppy is tight. There it goes. So this one you want to be careful. This is sort of what controls how much fuel goes in. Sort of take note how it's laid out. You don't have to undo that screw all the way. I'm going to take off my gloves for this, and so you can just sort of, let's see what supplies we got in here that we can put in this. Okay, so we got, there's that little mesh screen I was talking about. We're not going to use that. This is actually the Welsh plug. We're not going to use that either. And here's the needle, and here's the little controller, and that's what we're going to replace. So you want to pull this out like so. Now you need the rod still. My kit did not come with the rod, so you have to have that rod. So just thread it in there like that for the meantime. And now you got to get this needle out here, hopefully. I don't pull the spring out. Just sort of pry up on it. I guess I can flip it over. There's it is. As you can see, it's the same one. No issues. Alright, I'm going to do the same like I did with the other one and go blast it with some carb cleaner, and I'll get back to you guys. Alright you guys, I sort of got that taken care of. Just a little bit of carb cleaner into the jets and whatnot to ensure all the passages are clear. So next you want to reinstall that spring, and next you want to install the float controller here again, just like that. And that'll go, there's a little depressed button on the one on the float, and that'll go into it. And then we want to put the needle in as well. I want to make sure yeah, here's the new needle. Thread the needle on there as well. It's kind of hard if you have big fingers, but sort of just drop it in there. Like that. And then hold it with your finger. Actually, I gotta adjust this spring. The spring popped out where it should, out of where it should have been. So you want that spring under that little depression in the float. There it is. Now I'm going to tighten this screw up here. There we go. And make sure it's in good working order here. Yeah, you can see that pulls up on the needle just fine. Okie doke. Next thing we need to do here, install our little gasket thing. Now if remember, this one goes on first like this. And then our gas control valve here, or at least that's what I call it. This is what sort of controls the fuel flow. And this one's kind of bent, so I'm sort of bending it back to the shape it should be. I don't know why. Mailman must have been a little rough. Yeah, there we go. There you can sort of put it on top like that. That's all directional, so it doesn't really matter which way you put it. And then this piece sits on top here, like that. And put all your little screws in. Now this carb wasn't necessarily dirty at all. It looks like it's been ran once or twice, and it has sat without gas and oil mix in it. So I don't believe this thing's going to be any issues. I mean, the gaskets look like they've had gas on them once or twice. Just tighten all these screws back up here. Okie doke. Now I might have that gasket for that side, I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. Maybe not. Yeah, that's the gasket for the intake. Let me pry this old one off here. Hopefully. Yeah, there it goes. So that just comes off like that. And they do this way just to cover many of the applications that they use this engine on. See how it sort of has a whole bunch of holes in it. That doesn't really matter. As long as it lines up like that, just fine. Alright, I'm going to blast the outside of this carb real quick just to make it look pretty, and I'll get back with you guys. Complete the whole job here. I took off its old fuel line. It would have worked. It's still flexible, but I'm just taking it off because I have this line that'll work for this. So why not replace it so I don't have to do it in the future. Taking these little clips off and to be able to measure how much fuel hose I'm going to need here. So this stuff is it's got a smaller outside diameter, but I don't care. I'm going to put it that, and I'm going to give it a little bit more because I remember when I took this off it was a little bit tight. Alright, we got our new piece of fuel line here, and as you can see it's pretty much the same length, a little bit longer, and we'll slide these clips on here, which aren't really going to do much because of the fuel line size is a little bit different. I'm going to put that on after I get this on. So this is putting onto the gas tank here. There it goes. You see, I'm just pushing it onto that connection here. Make sure it won't leak. You can see that's a pretty tight fit on this one. So we're going to slide this clip on here. Lock it on there. That should be good. Actually, back it off just a smidge right there. Alright. If you guys remembered, I have this problem here with this white fuel nozzle. I heard this is a pretty common problem with Tecumsehs, but I'm not 100% sure. And this is Tecumseh power part 640363. This is an OEM part. It's very hard to find these nowadays, but I was able to source one. So we're going to pull that out. You can see it is the same size. And this goes on this little piece right here. It should just clip on. I got to think here. For when you have the, yeah, it'd be like that. So you'd want this sort of snapped in. Yeah, pushed in on this side here. But this is going to be a little difficult here, apparently. This isn't like screw on or anything, this pushes in. Somehow. I'll try pressing it against the table here. Maybe that'll help. There we go. Yeah, you gotta press it pretty hard to get it on there, but I did. And unfortunately that's gonna have to be turned somehow. Hopefully. And I might get, yeah, that's going to be turned. And hang on, you guys, let me turn this real quick. Add a little bit, you want to be able to hook the fuel line up to it. So now we're ready for reinstall. First, easiest thing to do is, well, what you want to do first is reinstall this spring. If you remember, the spring goes into the air vane here. And that can be a little tricky to get it in there, but after you get it, it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, now we're in. So the next thing, remember you have a spacer you need to put in there, which is right here. And you want the carburetor, which is up there, and you want the little new gasket that you need to install, this one. So it should go something like that. You sort of want to bend it in there so you got that air vane up there. And this installs like sideways, if you remember. Get the studs, thread the studs all the way through all this. Or at least make a valiant attempt to there. There it comes in on the other side there. There it is. Alright, now get the top threaded in. There it goes. Just as such. Alright. Get your little guy again here. With your quarter, 6-point quarter. Tighten it in like that. Next is your fuel tank installation. Which I don't believe had a gasket. Yeah, I don't think the fuel tank had a gasket, but we can deal with that. Oh yeah, it has a little rubber sealing gasket onto it. So remember, you got to hook this fuel line up to the top of this carburetor here, and you had that little clip you probably want to put on too. Not necessary, but since this has a whole bunch of vibrations onto it, it'll probably be a good idea to hook that puppy up. So this just slides on over this. This is a horrible design by Tecumseh. It's no wonder they went out of business. But they did make a lot of stuff in the US, which is good. So that slips over that. Push that in as far as it'll go. Seems to make a tight seal there. Alright, now that's on. Now you want to put that clip over to seal it off a little better. Probably don't even, yeah, the outside diameter of this fuel line is a lot smaller than the previous one. So that's a little loose, that's okay, then I'm going to leave that. Alright, next thing you got to do is line it back up here. And you got your two little nuts that go in there, which are, I think that's the, actually I'm going to put this top bolt in first. This goes up here by below the recoil arm into the metal fan housing like that. That'll be okay to hold the gas tank from moving around when I do the other one. I'm going to screw that in. Not too tight at first there. So the next thing we got to deal with is the nuts, which is your 11/32. Yeah, your 11/32 in here. Hopefully they get started themselves. Yep, there we go. Get another one. Oh, this one's going to be a pain. Gonna have to do that one by hand at first. And to ensure, yeah, close that so I don't have to undo this all to get that back on. Alright, so tighten up this. This is probably one you want to do a little evenly if you can. So that's tightened up, and I believe more, yeah. See, that's how the choke works on your carb. And so next, if you remember this order, you have 2 pre-filters. So the first one, you got your first pre-filter there. Not sure why it's like that. Guessing in case this foam filter falls apart, that'll stop it. Next is your actual foam filter, which probably should be soaked in oil. And then finally, I'm going to put the last pre-filter in here. You get your pre-filter. It goes like that. And that's to catch anything big. Since this is an earth auger and it is kind of working dusty, dirty conditions, possibly. And you screw that in. Like that. And there you go. That is your rebuild of a Tecumseh / Earthquake auger carb with new fuel line and new plastic fuel fitting. Some stuff to remember if you haven't ran one of these in a while. These run on 24:1, not 50:1. So that's something you have to make 24:1 mix. Not sure why. So as you can see, 24:1. Not sure why you have to do that, but like you'd think usually when you think 24:1, you think those Chinese scooters and cheap Chinese things, but you know, this is a double ringed piston, so this is not a cheap engine, I would say. Got your ignition. But yeah, I'll let you guys look at this thing here real quick. Here's how your throttle is actuated. I might get a video of this, I might not. I really don't have any holes to drill. Most likely we'll flip this unit. But it is like brand spanking new as far as I'm concerned. And I'll give you these part numbers again here. This is your part number for your fuel fitting and your repair kit. There's your rough price estimate if you're looking for part prices. Yep. And there's the final rebuild. Thanks for watching. Comment, rate, and subscribe.